Trying to do an auction of like a horse thing there. Welcome, huge movie fanatic Nate, stopping on by. This time I'm coming at you to review a movie that my mom recorded off TV sometime in the 80s, and that's how I saw it in the 80s. And incidentally, that was the very first exposure to a film franchise that I'd go on to become my all-time favorite film franchise. They actually watch a bit of Friday the 13th Part 3 in this film, and for some reason I had a recollection that the footage was black and white, but revisiting it again recently, it's not black and white. It's like a faded frickin' looking print or whatever. But coming your way to review the movie from, I think, whatever, 1985 or somewhere around there, by the name of Murphy's Romance. And I'm pretty sure the original theatrical poster only has Sally Field on it, ironically, and not the James Garner character, which is the title of the movie. He's Murphy, she's not Murphy, but you've got a movie called Murphy's Romance, and you don't have Murphy on the poster. I think later on for like video store poster and maybe video store artwork, they did put a little box, I think, with James Garner's face on it. But yeah, this is a movie that, you know, normally wouldn't have been that interesting to a boy like me, being more interested at the time in Rambo and Commando and TNA, and you know, I wasn't really, when I saw this, I wasn't really towards my horror film. I didn't feel, you know, comfortable enough to start watching horror movies yet, so I weren't watching those at the time. But like I say, this is more of a probably movie for maybe women. I think it's kind of like a romantic comedy / drama. So I mean, I think it's kind of interesting that I ended up growing up with this. But like I say, my mom recorded it. Or I don't know if I did say it. My mom, if I didn't say it, or even if I did say it, once again, my mom did record this off TV in the mid to late 80s, and that's how I originally saw it. So having revisited it recently, because I do have the DVD that I got probably for $2 or $3 years ago at Half Price Books, I revisited it because you guys may or may not know that that scene where they watch Friday the 13th Part 3. I've been meaning for months or years to like put that on YouTube and see if I can get away with it, and I recently did that weeks ago. I don't know when this video is being published in relation to when that video was published, but weeks ago I published a scene from this, the Friday, you know, where they're watching Friday the 13th Part 3, and I did watch the movie right before that, and luckily I did, because I was able to, you know, include that last part where the guy said, "Oh, he split his head open with the, you know, a hatchet. Split his head open like a melon." It was great. Like if I hadn't watched the movie, I wouldn't have included that scene, because that's after like this bingo scene or whatever. So good thing I watched it before I, you know, cut that clip and uploaded it or whatever. But yeah, like I say, this isn't a movie that normally a young kid would like, but you know, for some reason I watched it and kind of just liked it. Well, as a kid, I always liked James Garner, so that's probably why. I mean, I was too young to think anything of Sally Field at the time, but obviously now pushing 50, and you know, she says she's 33 in the movie. Maybe that's close to the age she is at the time, but oh man, you know, like, you know, I didn't think she was really, it's so funny, because as a kid I didn't think she was really necessarily good looking at all, but like looking at her now, when I'm like, you know, way older than she is in the movie, it's like, oh mama, she's got a behind on her, that's for sure. Well, I saw that she's got that behind in, well, of course it was even before this movie, but Smokey and the Bandit or whatever as well. But she's really, I think she's in, did I review that Home for the Holidays as like a horror movie? It was like made for TV with the person in the raincoat and the pitchfork or whatever. I think she's in that that's probably, I don't know when the hell that was. That from the early 70s or mid 70s? But anyway, yeah, Sally Field's a cutie, and didn't think so really one way or another, you know, when I was a kid, but now I do. But this whole movie is just about basically Sally Field as a divorced mom, and when I watch it, I get the impression that they're coming back to like the old family house. I don't think they really specify whether she just bought this house or if it is in fact the old family farmhouse with the, you know, the barn or whatever. But when she comes back into it, she seems, well, I guess you're going to be disappointed whether it's a new, you know, if you've never been there or if it's your old family house or not. But there's like a hole in the wall or whatever. and she seems disappointed. But whether it's your first time there or not, you're gonna be disappointed by the hole in the wall regardless. But it's like a divorced Sally Field with her kid, who's played by one of the two Corys, Corey Haim. And it's funny because when I revisited this, I'm like, oh wow, he's in this. That's really cool. I grew up with him in this movie and Silver Bullet and things. I didn't watch a lot of that stuff that he and Corey Feldman were doing in the late 80s, early 90s, because it was more teen movie fare and things. But I'm familiar with him from mostly Silver Bullet and also this movie, which I watched probably a lot less than Silver Bullet growing up in the 80s. But Corey Haim, classic Corey Haim, plays the son of Sally Field, and she's divorced and going to this ranch. I guess she grew up on a ranch, so she knows how to, whatever, care for horses and stuff, and is moving to this one town. I can't remember where. I'm sure they say where this town is located in North America or whatever, but it's a cowboy kind of town with people who own horses. So she's going to try to make a go for it there, and ends up meeting up with this crotchety, I guess 60-year-old, frickin' Murphy, who owns this business. What's really cool about this business he owns is it looks like and it probably was back then, it's just like right out of the 20s and the 30s, like this business he owns, which is like all included, like frickin' whatever place you can get, milkshakes and lunch, dinner, whatever, and it's like a place you can get what are those places? Pharmacy, but it's all like, frickin' from the 20s, 30s, and it probably really was, untouched from that era when they filmed the movie and stuff. So he's really cool, and he owns this old car from like the 30s and stuff, and there's this dispute about the parking meter right in front of where he parks it, that's right up front of his business and stuff. So, James Garner plays this crotchety, kind of, well, maybe not crotchety, I guess he's more or less a positive influence and experience in this woman's life. But it's kind of this, it works for his favor. It's kind of this, when you watch it now as an older adult, it's kind of like, well, good for him, bagging this 33-year-old at the age of 60, but at the same time it's like, God, it's not really that fair to her. And the movie ends right before she and the viewer gets to find out of how functionally he is, if you know what I mean, and kind of stuff. But he probably shouldn't have said his age until the next morning, but he says his age, spoiler alert, right at the end when they've agreed to spend the night together or whatever. But just a story about a struggling single mom, recently divorced, just trying to make a go of it and survive with her frickin' heartwarming story. Comedy, is it what would you call it, a dramedy? Dramedy, I suppose. Comedy / drama / love story of an unlikely pair. I mean, they did it the other way, because I'm like, well, yeah, sure. I mean, obviously, older guy, younger woman, that's good for him or whatever. And then I did think about it. Well, they did it previously and to a much greater degree, even younger guy and even older woman in Harold and Maude. So you can't blame Hollywood for not having done it the other way, and they even go more extreme with the age ranges. So they have done it the other way, and I don't know of, and definitely haven't seen every single movie ever made. So maybe there's even more movies that have the older woman and the younger guy or whatever. But yeah, it definitely works to James Garner, or in this case Murphy's, benefit with this particular movie. But it's just a movie about them just unlikely pairing or whatever, and then what's kind of annoying and very realistic is the father of Corey Haim, kind of deadbeat, divorced dad or whatever, kind of shows up on his motorcycle and just bleaches off her. Very, very realistic. There's guys, that are like this, and it's just like, God damn, you son of a bitch. And stuff, and stealing money from, what's her name? The freaking I always want to say Goldie. I always get Goldie Hawn and this woman confused. What's her name? Sally Field. Stealing money from Sally Field to buy his son stuff with the stolen money, and it's just like, give me a break. But yeah, it really goes by fast, because it's a combination of just seeing her trying to make it in this unlikely relationship between this 33-year-old woman and 60-year-old guy, James Garner as Murphy and Sally Field as whatever the hell her name is in the movie. And just the unlikely, situation of, them kind of, getting sweet on each other, as they say in the down south, or I don't know what. This movie takes place in whatever. Maybe it's Arizona, something like that. There's a lot of wide open spaces. So yeah, this is a movie that's always been in the periphery. Like ever since I was a kid, just I knew about Murphy's Romance. And honestly, even though there's a little bit, I mean, there's not a whole lot of depressing stuff. It's mostly a positive kind of movie, and the James Garner character is more or less a positive kind of fella that that brings a lot of prosperity into her life. And as she's having a hard go of it towards the beginning of the movie, and he kind of helps her out more and more and stuff, and I think if he doesn't employ her son, he offers to employ her son. I don't think we ever see her son working for him. I can't remember, but it's like as time goes on, Murphy's more and more helpful, and it just becomes more and more of like the positive situation. And then unfortunately, like the ex-husband coming back into the fold is kind of throws a monkey wrench in, but it adds to some interesting dynamics, and to the point where I think she more or less, that's another thing that Murphy does to support her, is he ends up buying a horse just so he can keep it with her, just so he can give her some money. So that's really kind of a cool little thing. Like, he didn't have any interest in having a horse until she's got this kind of ranch, more or less. It's a big barn where you can house your horses. I don't think I said anything about that. She can train for a fee or whatever. She can house your horse in her barn, maybe train the horse, this kind of stuff, take care of, bathe, whatever the hell you do with horses, feed, whatever. You get to basically keep your horse there, and you can come and ride it out into the sunset and come back and, put it in the barn and go home or whatever. So, like, when she meets him or whatever, and that he knows, once he finds out she's having a tough go of it, he buys a horse, and presumably just so he can keep it there and financially support her and stuff. And as a result, he'll ride it, and every now and then, and she'll keep asking him to stay for dinner. And I think more or less because she doesn't want to eat dinner alone with the ex-husband and her son, and stuff. And just kind of it's really an organic kind of a story. And this is the kind of movies that I just frankly miss, in this 21st century just age of seemingly just whatever, just run out of ideas, just like I say, I've said it before, and it's not that there's no good movies made these days, but the majority of them, in my opinion, or at least the majority of them that I see, aren't very good. And it seems like back in the old days, it's the same old thing with someone getting on in years like myself. Like back in my day, I contend that movies in the 80s and stuff were the much bigger percentage of them were of some kind of worth than the percentage of movies that are made and come out these days. But I mean, what's great about this movie is it doesn't claim to be a big huge deal. It's just this really kind of simple story, and it does it well. And James Garner, I mean, like I said, ever since I was a kid, I like James Garner. Probably one of my favorite movies, honestly, is Tank, and I've reviewed the movie and showcased the Laserdisc, and I think showcased VHSs of Tank. Tank's a favorite movie of mine from the 80s that I grew up with as well. And yeah, James Garner was a face from my youth and stuff. And Sally Field, I mean, like I say, I didn't pay her much mind back then, but now looking at her, it's like, God, that tush, man. Good tush. And then there's like a shot of it where she's just like talking to the ex-husband character and just aimed her tush right at camera, probably on purpose. But my star rating for Murphy's Romance would probably be 3.5 stars out of 4 stars. Just like I say, comedy slash drama slash romance. Kind of got a little bit of everything in this movie. And like I say, it's Sally Field, early 30s presumably, nice tush, nice everything really on Sally Field at the time. And if you're a Corey Haim fan, Corey Haim's in it. And what I do think is possibly, I mean, it's probably the fakest part of this whole movie, and if I can spoil it, well, I won't spoil it that much. I'll just simply say, like, I don't know if it's like halfway or a quarter into the movie, like the ex-husband shows up and starts mooching off her and stuff, and we'll just say without spoiling it too much that he ends up like conveniently right at the end when like Murphy and her are gonna get together, if you know what I mean. Like, conveniently, he's got a reason to, the ex-husband has a reason to skedoot and get the hell out of her life, and it's just kind of like, yeah, that was a little convenient, but it's a movie, what the hell, and you do kind of feel that weight, though, when he shows up and, you know, he's just mooching off her, like, God, how the hell does she get rid of him? And it's kind of this conundrum, because it's like, as she says herself, I'm 33 and living like a nun. It's like, you know, presumably she isn't getting any action, and there's kind of this conundrum briefly in the movie where you're kind of like, you know, is she going to go for it or whatever with the ex-husband? So it's kind of like, do I not get anything, or do I let my ex-husband to get at least something? And it's just like this conundrum. And what's really cool about that is it's like subtle. It's not like, you know, in your face and Sally Field going, you know, oh, should I screw my ex-husband? Like, it's not mentioned, but it's like subtly implied, and it's kind of like, oh. But, you know, I think without spoiling too much, she makes the right choice or whatever by, well, we'll just simply say that. I think she makes the right choice in that department, even though she might be, whatever the word is, not, that's the opposite. I was going to say satisfied. Whatever that word is. Frustrated. There you go. Frustrated by something with an S in it. I can say this. Frickin' the world ain't that bad yet. Sexually frustrated. So there. But yeah, I mean, it's a movie that, you know, like I say, it's like when you think of, you know, huge movie fanatic Nate, and you think of Texas Chainsaw or Freddy or Leatherface, Jason Voorhees, Chucky, you don't really think Nate's gonna, like, you know, give Murphy's Romance nearly 4 out of 4 stars, because it's like a kind of a woman movie. But, you know, when you're a kid, you're like pliable, or what's that? You're like a sponge, you know. And I mean, I think if I seen this for the first time, even now, I think I'd like it, you know. I mean, watching it now, I like it. So, of course, that probably has a lot to do with seeing it for the first time as a kid. But, yeah, I think that even if I hadn't seen it when I was a kid, and I've seen it for the first time now, I'd like it. But anyway, as so often is the case, I'm just kind of rambling at this point. Thanks so much for watching this review. Hope you guys enjoyed. And as always, we'll catch you on the next video.